You're listening to Paris Undressed on Paris Underground Radio.
Welcome to Paris Undressed. I'm Kate Kemp-Griffin, your host and the author of Paris Undressed, The Secrets of French Lingerie. Every week, we go behind the scenes of the lingerie capital of the world to explore femininity and sensuality. And if you listen carefully, tuning into both the conversation and the whispers of your body, you'll find joy, beauty, and delight. My guest today is lingerie designer Jina Luciani, founder of Occidente, a sustainable and ethical luxury lingerie and loungewear brand based in the Côte d'Azur. Inspired by art and nature, and in particular the organic architecture and beauty of the south of France, Occidente uses the purest textiles with an uncompromising respect and dedication to serving and preserving the local and global world we live in. Born in Lebanon, Jina grew up in the Côte d'Azur and studied at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York before returning to Paris to study at ESMOD, where she specialized in lingerie. Jina is passionate about creating sustainable beauty through sustainable fashion, and her vision and ethos resonate throughout the collection to offer unique pieces for the modern woman. Welcome to the podcast, Jina. Thank you for joining us. You are the founder of Occidente, a sustainable and ethical luxury lingerie and loungewear brand based in the south of France. Perhaps you could tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and what did you want to be when you were a young girl?
Hi, Catherine. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much for the invitation. Occident is my second brand. And, I grew up in Beirut, Lebanon. And then at around 8 years old, I came to south of France for about 15 years. And then I went to the United States to study fashion because since I was very small, I wanted to be a fashion designer. I thought that clothing had a strong power on emotions and also what surrounds you. So I really wanted to be a fashion designer. But before I did this, because it seemed maybe more serious, I did a few time in medical school.
Oh, okay.
I began in medical school and then I did my fashion design studies in New York.
All right. So there was an interest in science from the very beginning, and perhaps that technical aspect that is so important in designing lingerie as well, that you have this ability to connect both sides of the brain to create and analyze.
I guess so. Yes, it helped me very much. And also, I think that the care I learned in medical school, I brought it also in Occident right now, making clothes that take care of the woman who's wearing it.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a while to figure out in what capacity we interpret the words or the futures that we imagine for ourselves, and it takes a while to understand just the scope of possibility and the way that we can contribute. So from medical school to a lingerie brand is quite is is quite a virage.
That's particular, I know, but it was so interesting to join both domains. I think everything has a meaning. So I finally combine both aspects in the thing I'm doing today. So it's fine. Yeah.
And even just briefly in your introduction of the different countries, I mean, the culture of Lebanon, the culture of France, and the culture of North America. I'm always interested with the idea of identity. Did you pick up different aspects of each country and merge? Do you feel more one than the other, or is it about space more than place, or place more than space? How do you feel about all these different experiences in your youth?
Oh, well, in Lebanon, what's very interesting is that you wake up every morning wanting to realize every dream you have through your day. And then when I came in south of France, it was different because people took time to do things, more time to do things. And then I found the same spirit in New York. When I went to New York, I felt like I was in Beirut for the strength you put through your day to realize something. And in New York, I missed the slow part and the cultural aspects that we have here in France, where we take time and we want to understand, and past is important. So I guess now that I have traveled and lived in several countries, I feel a part of each one of them. When I go to each place, it's like home. And when you go to a place, you miss something from another, and you end up being a part of the three of them, I guess.
I think so. I tend to feel more of one when I'm outside of it.
Yeah,
Once I've left, I feel like, oh no, I'm more Canadian in France, and I feel more French when I'm in Canada. But I think there's this perspective that you just tend to always be observing actively.
yeah.
It's not a passive experience when you have different cultures within you and as a history. You tend to be observing and comparing constantly, not necessarily with judgment per se, but with I wonder why it's done like that, or I wonder why I thought about that like that. And then you're always putting yourself into question, wondering and questioning, which is interesting.
And I guess there's also the perception of the other people that surrounds you, because when I go to Lebanon, they tell me that I have a French accent. And when I'm in France, I have the Lebanese accent. But then when I speak English, I have kind of a French, but not really, in between Beirut and French accent. So it's also the people that surrounds you that make you feel that you have traveled a lot. But then when you're in a space like you were telling, you feel at home. I guess you feel at home if you have the elements that make it feels like home. Then it feels like home.
I'm just thinking about math. Which language do you do math in? Quick math.
French.
In French. Okay. Yeah, I use my fingers, so I don't know what language that is. But people always ask about dreams, and I never really remember my dreams and what language. But if I have to get to the counting, if I'm counting, what do I mean counting? I have to go back to English.
Yeah.
Yeah, the brain just doesn't add up. So you always wanted to be a fashion designer. What was your relationship to fashion as a young girl and to your body in particular?
Well, when I was a younger, I remember my family in Lebanon. It was a war time, so it was tough time for all the people. And the only time they had having fun was to dress up and to go look for a nice clothes. So for me, the clothing was kind of soothing the atmosphere, and I gave it a strong power, a kind of. So when I grew up, I wanted to be a fashion designer, to invent things that could bring joy to other people, to bring wellness, bring joy to other people, because this is what I observed through the time when I was younger in Beirut. And then the relation with the body was really to dress up back then. In Beirut, women want to be very feminine, so they used to buy clothes just to pump up the feminine side of them. But then when I grew up and I traveled, I saw all the women around the world, with the friends, with the US, but also other countries, and I see that every culture has his own view on women body.
And your own relationship, was your body something that you were proud of, that you grew into and appreciated later, or has it been a struggle? How do you live in your own body as Gina?
I guess when I was younger, I realized when I came in France that my body was more a voluptuous kind of oriental, So it had forms, and having forms was something maybe curious when I was younger. But now that I grew up, I think that everybody should be fine with the form her body, because it's a woman, her body has, and the clothing plays a role in for bodies because it helps you kind of I would say draw your body like you want, because as a designer I draw bodies, so I guess it has also not only the emotional side, the emotional power to change things for people, but also to work on the way they feel about the body, their body, by drawing different lines, or maybe also enhancing lines they want to pull out. And for me, it was the curves.
Well, and introducing new lines. I also have shape, and so coming to France and maturing early as a young woman wasn't necessarily aligned with how my brain and my mind thought about it. So it wasn't instantly acceptance. Acceptance came much later. And France, doorways are small, alleyways are small, streets are small. So size, you feel a certain way in a country when you're not the same as everybody else. But your decision to pursue fashion and design, you studied in New York at the Fashion Institute of Technology, and then decided that on top of that you wanted to specialize in lingerie. What was that moment of déclic where it was like lingerie and suddenly you had to come back to Paris and do more?
Well, when I was in FIT, I used to draw a lot because I like drawing. And I did not realize I was drawing already lingerie. I had some drawings put on the wall of the FIT at the time, and it was lingerie. And I did not realize it was lingerie. And my assignment, when somebody would give me an assignment, even on history, I would do loungewear or lingerie, but I didn't realize it, frankly. Huh? I came in Paris by December, a year in December, and too late, for the admission in this school at ESMOD. And they were very kind to take me in the lingerie year. But before I decided, I came there and I told them that I wanted to do ready to wear because this is what I studied in FIT. And they told me there was no space in ready to wear. So they had tailoring or lingerie. And I I thought tailoring was too much like medical school. So I chosen lingerie. I chosen lingerie by chance and then remembered all the lingerie I was drawing in FIT. So I guess I just followed the way it was meant to be.
Yeah, sometimes you think you're creating your path, and sometimes you're actually
Yes.
just following the signposts of where you're supposed to go. And then you started your own brand before Occident. Can you tell us about that?
The first one was French Nomad. It was in New York because I went back to New York after my studies at ESMOD. And it was about clothes you could travel with. Because at the time, people were traveling all the time. There was a lot of movement on our planet. And I was in the industry formed as a person who was supposed to work in luxury fast fashion. So I made the first brand with the traveling, and it was about loungewear and lingerie you could travel with to make easier the life for women who had to travel a lot for their work.
And that met with great success in the United States.
Yes.
And then
And then we had the events in New York that kind of changed the context. So traveling was not at all something you would consider at the time, not as much as the people used to do. And for me, New York had changed so much with the atmosphere it had over there. It looked like it sounded and it felt like a war. And because I lived the Lebanese war, I have decided to come back to France, to Paris first, and then to Grasse, close to Grasse, Péminade. And I thought about the meaning of what I wanted to do with fashion, was when I was very young. And I did Occident.
if you're enjoying this episode of Paris Undressed, You may also be interested in Don't Miss This, hosted by Jennifer Garrity, who finds those off-the-beaten-path experiences and hidden gems that can make for a truly unique Parisian experience. She rounds up the best of what's happening in the City of Light, so tune into this exciting Who, What, and Where podcast. Paris Undressed will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to Paris Undressed. You founded in 2008 at a time where eco-friendly sustainability wasn't yet, in every magazine or that well, or on every label. We're still defining it. But what gave you that inspiration to have ethical values, to have an ethical business, and to create a brand around probably not the best business model if you're looking at the bottom line? It wasn't necessarily the easiest way to do it. Why and how did that ethos come in?
I guess it was because I thought about this meaning of well-being for women, and also the sense of doing clothes for people, not only women but also just doing fashion is something that is a true passion for me since a long, long time. But for me, clothing is like a second skin. It's there to make you feel better in a way with the or another. It can be the shape, but it's also maybe the textiles that are pure for you. And when I came back to south of France, for me it was very important to do it the way I imagined it before doing all the studies about the industry. At the time, you were formed to perform, to be operational, to perform. And I did work for big companies in the US, but I saw all the aspects of it. And when I settled down in south of France, it was kind of a new start, and also an open space for me to do it in another way. I didn't really think at the time, about the business model. It was more about just making sense in my way to design lingerie for women. And lingerie is so close to women, so close. It's their intimate wardrobe, it's on their skin. So it should be the purest, the softest, the more comfortable, but also a beautiful piece made with know how. And I guess that was the real motivation for me to do it all this way in 208. And you are right. At the time, eco-conception wasn't really the subject, and people didn't even know about organic cotton for lingerie. I had questions like, can I eat it? You know, the famous can I eat it? And once I even gave it a meat platter saying, this one you cannot eat, but you can wear.
Yeah. I mean, you're on the forefront of because you can't make anything without fabric, right? Of course,
Sure.
so, and lingerie requires a certain number of elements that aren't necessarily eco-friendly. So feels like you were a bit of a salmon swimming upstream,
Yeah.
going against the current to eventually get to where one should be. But it was 2008 was a while ago, and you've been continuing to define your role in shaping your vision today. Your designs have an architectural component and feel very modern. And there's a very strong sense of fashion and style, this minimalist and graphic combination to your brand, which makes me curious about how you view fashion and how you view lingerie. The industry really wants us to keep them separate. But are
Yes.
they? And I'm wondering, as a woman myself, as women, do we really think of our undergarments as that separate from our outer garments? And is that not perhaps one of the reasons we feel so disconnected at times from our inner self and our outer self? And on your website and in your collections, each piece goes together. Even though you're heading, say, lingerie, loungewear, when you're in your space, I'm in a wardrobe. I'm not inside or outside. And I'm wondering how you think of the words themselves, lingerie. Do you consider yourself a lingerie designer, or is that a title that's been imposed on you?
um, Well, first, I want to tell you that I'm very honored that you felt this looking through the collection because it's really a deep work on lingerie, on loungewear, and on this vision of having this wardrobe inside and outside. For me, lingerie is dedicated to women to make her feel better, but to make her feel better for her. And when you think it like this, I guess there's no separation between lingerie and fashion because it's not about seduction, it's not about having a functional piece for the day. It's about feeling better with a minimalistic outfit, a small outfit you wear under your clothes, but you can wear without also the shirts or whatever if the temperature is hot. So it's an outfit. You're right that it shouldn't be separated all the time, like you have the lingerie for the purposes that I told you, and then the fashion. It's all together, and it can be fashionable to just have the lingerie also. I consider myself as a designer in lingerie because I guess I'm very specialized now in lingerie. When I think about it, I've been working in lingerie since now 20 years. So for me, it's a domain, it's a way of thinking that I have adopted since the time where when I was in ESMOD.
What do you love most about designing lingerie?
That's a good question. I guess I like most the way you can just imagine anything that can be very minimalistic and draw a new line on the body and then make it fit to the shapes of the body. The combination of both I love. It's a challenge all the time, when you draw circles, for example, like the Lara piece we have, you draw circles and then you're like, all right, that's a circle and it's in cotton. So you don't have the stretch you can have in other fabrics. It's in organic cotton. So you have to make the organic cotton the shape of a circle and make it fit to a woman and give her the empowerment with those new very designed shapes. So the challenge of this is very exciting, and I love it in lingerie.
Your collections, you like white and you love black.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really like black and white, and it's not just any white. You are very particular in your selection of whites. Sometimes it's blond de blond, sometimes it's blond maribel, blond edredon, blond antique, blond naturel, and black noir, pavillon, etc. What is it about this palette? Was it always this palette for you, Occident, or did it actually evolve into this palette?
It evolved because at the very, very beginning, it was more colorful. I guess the trends played a role because I was still in the business, in the industry of fashion. But then when I disconnected, really just to recenter and think about the way I really wanted to do fashion and lingerie for women, I've decided to make it white at the beginning and all the whites that you have mentioned because white is the color of the flower for the cotton. So it was the purest color you could have for women. And since it's organic and it's pure and it's sourced in countries that are close to us in Europe, and I wanted really, really the purest for the women, I took whites as the main palette. But then when you do only white and whites, you need to give it a pump at a moment.
Yeah.
So the black played its role there. So there, the black entered just to draw lines actually on the white and to shape the lingerie and the body like it's I and now it's we the team wanted to see it on women.
Well, it's a lovely harmony of whites as well, and you talk about following the different colors of white that are in nature. And like everything, when you start paying attention to the shades, there is so much dimension in the whites, you know. And I love the names. I love the names and the attention that you give to the white. It's because as a consumer, I'm looking at it differently when I was looking through the different product descriptions, and you give quite a lot of detail about the product itself. And each piece has its own story, and color is very important in that story. And there's more color in white and black than I had initially attributed to. So thank you for that. And language continues because each one of your pieces, you give a very feminine name. So, for example, in the bras, we have a range of a Margot, we have a Candice, we have a Michelle, a Laura, and a Brigitte. What is it about the names for each of the bras? Are they women that you know that have inspired? Are they women in literature? How do you attribute a name for a piece in your collection?
Yeah, usually there are two ways to attribute the names. The first one is to be inspired by women who really empowered the women actually. So it can be writers, it can be women that are really interested in all the ecological aspects in fashion, but also globally. It can be also people who participated to the collection. That's the second way we choose names, because when we have inspiring women who come and bring a different view on products, and they work on our designs, then as a tribute for those women, we give the name of the person who inspired the design that we did.
Well, it's a lovely range of women. I feel like I'm surrounded in a conversation with these different women and personalities. For the business, how do you go about designing a lingerie collection? Where does it start? Is it a piece of fabric? Is it music? Is it a walk in the forest?
We can think about the collection as a timeless collection from the beginning. I I must say we work collections and we renew some pieces of the collection, the permanent collection, because we want to show that you can always do something that is with the time you are living in the same way, and as a continuous part of an initial collection we have. So we can see it as only one collection from the beginning, with new added designs every year in a certain theme. And the theme is inspired by the way women are feeling. So it begins like that. We look at what's going on and how women are feeling, and then we try to respond to their feelings and their believings and their needs with designs in our new designs in the collection that bring something added to the designs we had previously. And for the shapes, because we have, those geometric shapes, just to answer in a way that is continuous, we always think about organic architecture, and it helps us design the new pieces in a continuous way. So the organic architecture is very important for us, and we have some architectures like this also in south of France. So it surrounded us actually. And then we go and have a look on our textiles. And in organic textiles, you don't have also much choice, but having a few choices is also very creative for us, because we can use it in different ways depending on the needs, and also on the functional aspects that we have observed. And then we design the lingerie, and we design the lounge to renew, kind of I don't know if renewing even is the good word, but just to add up to the things you had before.
If you're enjoying this episode of Paris Undressed, you may also be interested in Paris: A State of Mind with hosts Gail Boisclair and Marie Pistinier as they talk about the ins and the outs of property rentals and purchases in and around Paris. Whether you are looking to rent or buy, tune into this exciting podcast. Paris Undressed will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to Paris Undressed. You said organic architecture, and I don't really know what that means. Could you explain that a bit more, please?
Sure, it's architecture that is in harmony with the nature that surrounds it. So when we have a look on people that do organic architecture, then if you get inspired by those people and you think about the body as the architecture, but then you think about the nature is just the skin and what surrounds you, then you have those shapes that cover you in a structural way, and at the same time it's like marrying you, kind of, because I'm in the latest collection that is in Histoire d'Amour, so I'm very in love with the body, and I guess that it's kind of melting in my mind when I want to explain to you how it gets all together. But the lingerie and the body is similar to the architecture and the nature, and it goes together.
Really a fusion of both to create a new way of being.
Yeah, and with the lines only, so you don't shape. You don't want to shape it as the shapewear. You don't come to change by contracting, or maybe doing tension on the body, but just on drawing lines, new lines that embellish the lines you already have. So it's very interesting to work it like that, actually. And the fabrics, the organic fabric, they make really sense when you do this, because it's organic architecture for the inspiration, and at the same time you have organic fabrics, and it's very similar the way you then you view the body and how you can do the lingerie and the lounge for the body.
It sounds like such a unique process that you is it unique to you? It seems like it's just your way of viewing the world that we're in and the combining the elements in a way that now your body is part of this entire organics architecture. It's I don't know, I'm feeling that medical school coming back.
I guess, Catherine, you know the answer better than me, huh? Because I'm too much in Occident to know this.
Yeah, there's an anatomy of things going on here that you're pulling together that's sort of over my head conceptually, and I'm sort of listeners can't see, but I'm smiling. I'm not really understand. I'm trying to visualize this because it seems so complex yet so simple in the idea, and I'm actually trying to see. Your vision is extraordinary. So connecting the body to all of this, I find fascinating in this role of creativity and business. Has there been somebody in particular in your life who has had a defining role in helping shape your vision in business?
I guess all the experiences I've had contributed to it, because you asked me where I come from, and it's true that when you come from Lebanon, you want the care for the people, and then through medical school south of France, with all the know-how, the people that I have met there, who allowed me to go then to study in the US. All the teachers in the US also were fantastic, because they had a view that was really open, even if we were at the time in a business way of seeing fashion. So I guess the open view that they allowed, it was a kind of a light for me to see this as I was imagining it when I was younger. And then when I was in Paris, I have worked for Concepts Paris also. And they had a real view on how to do lingerie for women, and also the importance of pleasure. And I thought this was very interesting, because pleasure indeed is linked also to all the joy and the well-being, that we are talking about. So I guess that this experience was very important too. And the school in Paris also, with their know-how in lingerie, helped me to have the know-how to shape the lingerie like I'm shaping it today for Occident. So yes, of course. I would say, we were talking about the sense and the signs and the observation. And I guess, when you observe and you collect all the good things that you experience in life, and then the combination of it can be the result you see today in the Occident designs.
And as we evolve and change in our bodies as well, as every year brings another adventure, you're no longer the same student that you were back in the States or back at ESMOD. Life has happened and you've evolved as well, and bringing life into the world and the capacity of the body to do that as well.
Of course, and talking with women, nowadays with their will of feeling better and with their envy to just exist as a person with a true identity and to have more nature around. Talking with all the women and being open to hear things that might not be directly connected to fashion and to lingerie at the beginning, but that are interesting to make lingerie evolve is so interesting also for us. Well, always open to see new signs that can make our wardrobe be better for women.
And whether you are somebody who thinks a lot about lingerie or not, we all have a first bra experience. So regardless of how we move forward, we've already had an experience that will shape how we view ourselves and lingerie. And I'm wondering if you would share your own first bra experience.
My first bra experience was a bra that was offered by my family, and I remember, it was by my mother, and I remember the feminine look of it, and also the softness of it because it didn't have wires. I don't know the feel of it. It's so intimate, when you see your first bra and it's like a jewel because maybe it felt like that because you think that it's kind of a step also in your life. And it's very precious because it's your first one. And this one was precious and at the same time very comfortable. So it might even, now that I think about it, it might even had an impact this experience on the way I see lingerie today because the Occident lingerie is like this. It's very minimalistic, it's very refined, and at the same time, it's very comfortable and organic. So you have both aspects also in the designs I do nowadays. First prize, very important.
And we have daughters that we have to convey the same message to, their introduction into this world. Was it an easy subject for you to be able to talk about with your daughters? Lingerie, bras, panties, this whole entree into the world of intimate lingerie?
Yes, sure. And they grew along with all the lingerie ideas, drawings, and designs that I made. You know, so I guess their first bra, if I remember well, their first bra was an Occident bra.
Yeah. I wonder how
it,
that happened.
it was fine and wireless and organic. Yeah, yeah. They are very sensitive about lingerie. They want it to be feminine and to be at the same time to have a comfort. So they always ask for this, and for me, it's very important also to listen to them because they are indicators of what's happening next.
You have incorporated as part of your brand, obviously, sustainability, and you have something on your website that is, just up there for everybody to be able to read, and it's about your values, and you've created a manifesto.
Yes,
And in that manifesto, and I've translated sort of loosely, so if I get some of this wrong, please correct me.
we have to do the translation. I saw today. No, it's in French.
It's in French, yes, but it's, because sustainability is so important to you, but you evoke other things, and let me just read 2 lines or 2 paragraphs that resonated with me. So, "At Occident, we create the right balance between the aesthetics of our products and the ecological and human values we believe in." And the second, one I wanted to evoke is, "At Occident, we strongly believe that seduction comes from the state of mind even more than from the shape of your assets. You are beautiful because you feel good. And with this in mind, each piece of Occident lingerie is unique and designed for your well-being. And so this link between sustainability and seduction, you have really put out there as founding values. And sustainability and seduction are big words. And as consumers, do you think we're ready for that? Or do you think we've been kind of waiting forever for somebody to bring us these big words in a way that just sort of makes sense so that we can move past this cliche of seduction as a reflection of man's desires and into something that begins and blooms from within?
I guess women are really evolving towards a vision of being a woman as a woman for yourself. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. This is the way that people are trying to think these days. I know it's not that easy because I do think that they struggle sometimes to make it just accepted by people that surrounds them, but then they are trying. And it's not the first try if you think about history. It's not the first try, but then it's a try of today. It's a different try, I would say. They are not looking for freedom, they are looking just to exist as a person for themselves. And this is maybe the way we also think and see our lingerie for women, because when you design lingerie, you can design it for a purpose that is seductive and seductive for just other people, or you can firstly think about, okay, the woman, she wants to have lingerie for herself, and she maybe wants to enhance certain parts of her body because she wants to be empowered and feel well about her body. And when you do this for her and not for seductive purposes to others, or you do it just for her, then she has a suave charm that is just infinite. It's magnificent to see because she has the confidence for herself. And it's very important in Occident to have this view on lingerie for women, because we do believe that women are fantastic and they are strong and they are very rich in their inner self. And that if you feel well in your lingerie and in your clothes, if you look at the fashion as a complete subject, then you feel well for all the people and you look very charming to all the people without having to seduct or to charm. You are magnificent by yourself. And this is the idea we want to infuse in our brand.
Well, you go on to say in the manifesto that our primary inspiration is to imagine you wearing our lingerie with ease, moving naturally and elegantly with the sensation of being almost naked.
Yes. It's second skin, when you wear the organic cotton, it has such a beautiful feel. It's very soft and it's very refined, the fabrics that we have. So you don't even feel it on your skin. So when you wear it, it's true that it's very architectural, and with the lines, you have new lines designed on your body. But then this is what you see from it when you look at a mirror. But if you close your eyes, you don't feel that you are wearing lingerie, because even the wires, they are very soft on you. We waited a long time before doing wires. We didn't want to do wires for women at the beginning. We have waited something like 10 years to have the wire, because we have looked for innovations and wires that are very flexible for the women to wear them, and that are recycled at the same time. In Occident, not only the fabrics are organic, but also we look at a global aspect of every detail we put on the bra. So when we found the wires, we did them for the women. Otherwise, even if you wear wires, you don't feel them. It's really like your skin. It's stronger there and than a second skin, because you don't feel you're wearing lingerie, but you do have the pieces on you.
If you're enjoying this episode of Paris Undressed, you may also be interested in Navigating the French, hosted by Emily Monaco, who engages in a lively conversation with an expert about a French word and its cultural and linguistic meaning to provide keen insights into understanding the French. Tune into this exciting podcast that goes beyond language. Paris Undressed will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to Paris Undressed. Well, I'd like to pause on that because it's such an important distinction, and that we sometimes, I think, throw into this word comfort. But when you're talking about comfort, you're talking about a beautiful feeling, not lazy feeling. It's something that adds to your experience. And when you have beautiful fabrics and that feel of beautiful fabrics, you start to feel differently. You're brought straight into the feel of it, and you're not actually looking at the aesthetic. You come from it from within, and then the aesthetic follows, but you are already in this state of being that's completely outside of a seduction role of lingerie. And it's really an invitation to just sort of blossom and go at your own pace and your own speed, and to evolve. And I just wanted to give some more time and space around this word beautiful feel and comfort, because they're not the same thing necessarily. Or our interpretation as a consumer, we tend to group it together, and it's not. It's something consumers can really be much more demanding of in their purchase, and also just taking the time to feel the difference, because it will change how she feels in her lingerie. And I wanted to talk to you about that a bit more.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You're right, because when you think about comfort, sometimes it's about wearing oversized shapes just to be with an ease in your clothing. But yeah, our vision of comfort is the freedom of movement in the clothing, in our lingerie, in our loungewear. It's the fact that lingerie specifically, because loungewear is about clothing that is to lounge around, but lingerie sometimes is more about doing a kind of attention on the body, like we were talking before. And for us, lingerie is just pieces that you wear underneath the clothes, and that are very refined, and that allows you to move with freedom, where you don't feel that you are with an outfit underneath that is harmful to your movement. So it's more about this vision of comfort, yes. And I like what you said about the beautiful feeling.
And I think we sell ourselves short. I think sometimes we just say it's comfortable and then that's enough. But if it's not a beautiful feeling, it's not enough. It it's not enough. It has to be a beautiful feeling. And I think that's what these materials that you are going to great lengths to make sure that your brand and every piece is put together in such a way that is felt in our movements. Okay, so you are a lingerie designer, and we're all dying to know what's in your lingerie drawer.
Yeah, you're right. Um, that's an intimate one, huh?
Yes, yes. And I'll add the doctor comment. It's always like, are the doctor's kids the most sick? Because nobody, I want to know what's in your lingerie drawer. Mhm.
But I do have a lot of cotton, Occident pieces. Yes, I do have a lot of them, because I feel just with those pieces that the nature is really close to me, and I love the feel of it. So I do have a lot of Occident pieces for my lingerie. And sometimes I have to admit, huh, sometimes I go, all right, for more seductive pieces. But I guess it's also about the all the aspects that we have inside, as women, and we want all of it all the time. But if you go really just to look at how many pieces I have, etc., and the type of pieces, I guess it might be something like 90%, organic and cotton, and the 10% fantasy.
Fantasy. And is it a tidy drawer? Is it a messy drawer? How do you organize it all?
It's a tidy drawer and it's all organized. It's like the black and white. It's like the black and white.
Yeah. And for your own Occident pieces, are you giving yourself the real pieces? Or are you taking the prototypes and that didn't quite Are you treating yourself to the best of the best, or are you making do with picking up what's off the
No,
design
I
floor?
am treating myself actually.
Okay,
You know, when we
good.
do designs, I tell them all the time, can you make something for me? The same one, but in my size?
Perfect.
Because
Yeah.
I do want to have my own piece for real.
Yeah, absolutely. And what has making lingerie taught you about your own femininity and sensuality?
Mm. Lingerie is kind of a mirror for our femininity and sensuality, I guess. So when I tell you that, now that you know all my intimate secrets, I guess the nature that is in my intimate wardrobe, and also the spontaneous way I might go for some pieces, just kind of reveals my true inner side. Huh?
Mhm, mhm. Well,
It
it is the
teaches
Paris
me.
Undressed, podcast, so there does have to be an undressing somewhere of
Yeah.
intimate secrets, so Gina, when you're not making beautiful lingerie, what are you doing?
I'm spending time with my daughters and my friends here, because I have chosen a slower life in south of France, and it's not by just by intention to make a brand here. It was really to have a slower life. So I try to spend as much time enjoying every moment, every people I like and I love here around. Mm.
And when you're enjoying time with friends and sharing a coffee or a tea, are you espresso, cafe au lait, noisette, darjeeling? What's your beverage of choice?
Well, my favorite one is Five Senses tea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not holding back, are you?
No.
That's all I know. And what's your favorite flower arrangement?
Flowers that are in the garden, actually, every like wild flowers are just so fantastic to observe, I guess. I really enjoy the flowers that we have around here in south of France, and of course on the cotton flower. I have it everywhere here around, in the atelier, but also in my house, because it's so interesting. The shape of it, I would say, even it reminds me of the circular shape we have. So I'm kind of obsessed with the cotton flower. But then, if you take me from my obsession of the organic cotton flower, I might go to the white flower that is there outside.
And lastly, are you salé or sucré?
Ah, sucré.
Okay. And sucré comment? What's your favorite sucré? Your delight?
Mm. Sucré from those homemade biscuits you can do sometimes, and you eat deliciously with the tea that I told you about.
A perfect accompaniment. Yeah.
Yes,
And what are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about the situation. I would say the behavior of people in the world we are living in. It's very interesting to think about how we are going to bounce tomorrow. So I guess that's thinking that I have very often these days.
Gina, thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
me today. And in particular, thank you for creating beauty in a way that invites and inspires women to reflect their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for the invitation. It was really a pleasure.
To learn more about Occident, visit occident.fr. That's OCCIDENTE.fr, or on Instagram at Occident Eco Collection. And thank you. Merci for listening to Paris Undressed. And if you enjoy this podcast, please share and subscribe so we can continue to connect our stories one bra at a time. You can find me, your host, Kate Kemp Griffin, on all socials at Paris Undressed and at Catherine Kemp Griffin. You can also find the links on our episode page. Paris Undressed is produced by Paris Underground Radio. For more on this show and shows like it, please go to parisundergroundradio.com. Merci et à la prochaine.
This episode of Paris Undressed was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio. For more on this show and shows like it, please visit parisundergroundradio.com.